Hi everyone, my name is Shervin. I'm the owner and CEO of BlueBird Simulations. I hope you all had a good holiday and a happy new year. We have a lot of material to cover in this video, so I'll just get started. The first question that's on everybody's mind, I'm sure, is why wasn't the 757 released in 2023 as I had originally predicted? To answer that question, when we first started, we had four members. One of those members was our chief programmer, Eric. I've known Eric for a very long time. When I was a freeware developer at Project Open Sky, Eric graciously allowed us to use his gauges for the A330. Eric worked really hard on the 757 coding and all avionics and systems. But back in late July, he decided he was going to retire from development. He had his full-time job on top of this and his family commitments. So I totally understand that. It was a lot of work. I wish Eric the best. We still keep in touch. And he was a very important part of making BlueBird what it is today. So I really appreciate that. And Eric will be beta testing the 757 when it gets to that point. So I will still be working with Eric in the future. Now, with that said, we didn't have with Eric's retirement, we no longer had a programmer. But luckily, in a month, I had three programmers on board. There was two new members that came on board, plus one of our existing members stepped up to do the programming. And at that time, the three of them unanimously decided that they wanted to start from scratch using WebAssembly. The original code was written in JavaScript, but they wanted to start all over in WebAssembly. And we didn't know how far back that was going to set the project, but they decided, and I respected that decision. So, but fast forward 5 months, they've made a tremendous amount of progress, and you'll get to hear from them in this video and just some of the stuff they've been working on. We won't show everything. And when I mentioned in the beginning of this month that we're optimistic about 2024, and several people asked me, well, what does that mean? We're hopeful, and again, I'm not making any promises, and again, I'm going down the road of trying to make a prediction here. We're hopeful that we can release the 757 in 2024, but there's no guarantees, right? It could get delayed. A project of this scope, it takes a lot of time. We've spent over 7,000 hours on this plane in the last 2.5 years, and we're going to be spending many more on it. But we're hopeful we can get it out by the end of the year. But if it gets delayed, it gets delayed. We're not going to rush it. And I know the majority of the community is understanding of that, and I really appreciate that. Now, with that, with the code being completely redone, we also took a look at the virtual cockpit. We got some new data, such as measurements and some more videos, and we decided, okay, there were some things that were off, and we wanted to rework them. So we spent the last 5 months reworking the virtual cockpit, basically starting from the back, moving forward. We redid everything, almost everything, literally, like every screw we looked at and we moved and we touched, we resized. So when we did that, obviously parts get stretched out, textures get stretched out. So in these previews, you're going to see placeholder colors that we put on some of the parts and just some textures that are stretched out. That's obviously a work in progress. All of the textures will have to get remapped and retextured, and that process is going to start in the next 2 weeks. Our texture artist is going to start on that, and then it's probably going to take them 2 months to get everything done. And when it's done, we'll show a preview, and we're really excited. This is the fifth and final iteration of the cockpit. I promise, no more iterations of the cockpit after this. Um, the other thing I want to talk about is last month I made the video asking for a sound developer. I'm so excited that Boris from Boris Audio Works is on board now. He's going to be starting in a few days. We have dozens of recordings that we took that we're going to give Boris and some other sounds that he has. And I'm very excited. Hopefully in the next couple of months, we can finally preview some sounds. I know you guys have been waiting, and I've been waiting to showcase some sounds. We'll finally be able to do that in the next couple of months. So I'm very excited about that. The next thing I want to talk about is I appreciate all of the YouTubers that have been covering us. The one thing I ask is please use content from this video and all the videos going forward. Try to avoid using any content from my previous videos, as a lot of that is now obsolete. We're taking this project to a new scope, right? When we announced it almost 2 years ago, we said it was going to be mid-level. Well, that's no longer the case. This is going to be a high fidelity, study level, whatever you want to call it, airplane. It's going to be a very realistic and complex simulation of the actual aircraft. So please use video or content from this video if possible. All right. With that said, now you're going to hear from some of the team. We'll start off with with our programmers, and again, just some of the work they've been working on. We won't go through everything, and then after they're done, I'll come back with some more commentary, and then you also hear from our flight dynamics expert, who's also an airline pilot, and what he's been working on. Just a brief recording of that, and then I'll come back with some more content and some more updates after that.
Hey guys, this is Jack at BlueBird Simulations. I am one of the main programmers here, and today I want to show you guys some of the work I'm doing on the avionics. For starters, everything has been mapped out pixel by pixel to create the most accurate displays possible. This includes the font styles, the font sizes, and the symbols themselves. To demonstrate some system depth, I will turn off the left IRS system, which is connected to the captain's displays. Then I'll switch the captain's displays to the center IRS system using the alternate IRS button. You will also notice that the first officer's displays remain the same since they are connected to the right IRS system. I also wanted to show you guys a quick preview of the terrain display I've been working on.
Thanks, Jack. Amazing work. I want to point out that this was a sample of what he's been working on. The terrain display on its own was a massive amount of work, and we're excited to showcase this. He has spent a lot of time working on the base code that we will use for all of our future projects. We'll show more of Jack's work in a future video. Now let's hear from another one of our members, Dave, and what he's been working on.
Hi there, everybody. I'm David. I'm one of the programmers and external texture artist at BlueBird Simulations. And today I'm going to be showing you the IRS and the CDU. And also you'll see some of the texture work that I've done. So first of all, let's go down to the CDU. And what I'm showing here is that there are two databases in the CDU with two different dates. One is valid and one is not. And when it's out of date, it shows that. There is full validation inside the CDU to make sure things are accurate. It also protects against invalid entry as well. So moving on to the route. Although I'm located at Manchester Airport, which is EGCC, I purposely enter KMEM, which is Memphis in America, just to show you the validation around the IRS and how it won't align while ever there is an incorrect origin. Just a little bit of setting up. I'm currently flying the Icelandair 757. And there are fully activated and executed Route 1. So moving on to the POS init page. So now I'll show you the IRS panel. So we switch the IRSs into nav mode. That starts the aligning process where it checks for DC power and then starts the align process once that's passed. Going back down to the CDU, now we have the set IRS position boxes available. So now we pick up the GPS position and we enter it into the IRS position. And now the IRSs have tried to align. They've recognized that the origin is different from the actual GPS position. And so the IRS is warning us that we have an incorrect position. So I'll now change this to be correct for Manchester Airport. And now that I've done that, the IRSs have aligned. We now have the artificial horizon and the navigation display. We also have the IRS left, center and right on the POS ref page 404. And the align lights have stopped flashing. Plus we can see the IRS latitude and longitude. So the IRSs are now aligned. So moving on to the other parts of the route now. We'll go to the departure and arrival page, and we'll specify the runway for the departure, and then choose the SID. For this one, I'm choosing the Pole 1 Yankee SID. Now we have runway 23 left selected, and I'll enter a pole waypoint into the route. So now showing the route 1 and route 2. So now I've switched to route 2, and you can see that there is no origin and destination. So now I'll switch back to route 1, and I'll show you the route copy function, where route 1 is copied to route 2. And then I'll show you the departure and arrival index page. So now you can see that we have route 1 and route 2 with the same origin and destination. If I switch to route 2, then we can change the destination. Switch back to route 1, activate and execute that. So now moving on to the perf init page, I can enter a 0 fuel weight. Again with full validation to make sure we enter it correctly. Calculates the gross weight. Set the reserve weight. A cruise altitude and a cost index. At the moment the CDU is in the pounds unit scale. Some of these values here, if they're in a smaller font size, then they're not pilot entered, they're calculated. If you override them with a value, then the text will become larger. All of the values that you can enter into the CDU are accurate for a 757. We've discussed with real-world pilots on the 757 to make sure that these values are accurate for the CDU on the 757. Please bear in mind that some of this stuff is still being worked on, so it may not be as filled out as the real thing is. But in time, it will get filled out and be even more accurate upon release. So now I'm going to derate the thrust using the TMSP panel. We'll derate it to 32 degrees Celsius, which uses a real-world table to get the correct EPA value for the engines. And that's everything for me for the CDU and IRS for now. But we will show more in the future regarding all of this, plus lots of tutorials. For now, I'll hand it over to Shervin, who can discuss the liveries and the work that I've been doing to make the liveries highly accurate across several different liveries throughout the world. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining us.
Great work, Dave. Thanks so much. It's really exciting to see the CDU and IRS in action. And he didn't even go through all of the functionality and details of the systems. It would just take too long in this video. We might showcase some more features in a future video. Now, as you can see from this video, we're showcasing some new stunning liveries. Dave has spent hundreds of hours on the base textures, literally mapping every single rivet and decal. He spent time ensuring the liveries are correctly color matched. You can also see in the fuselage from certain angles the random irregularities in the panels. The reflections of the various parts, or roughness as we devs call it, has been adjusted to match how the material looks like in real life. His attention to detail is amazing. He's also in the process of texturing the wings. Here's a little preview of the wings in Substance Painter. Dave has been very diligent to make sure that the ambient occlusion is done correctly. After this, it's on to the main landing gear for texturing, but keep in mind the main landing gear has still not been done in terms of the model itself. We've still got quite a bit of work to do on that and add a lot of detail, and then it'll be on to texturing. Now let's hear from another one of our programmers, Whan, and see what he's been working on.
Hello everyone, my name is Whan. I'm an aircraft system simulation software developer at BlueBird Simulations. I joined the team a few months ago, and my role is to develop accurate simulation models of various aircraft systems. In this short video, I will describe how an aircraft system is modeled and how do we make sure that it is modeled very accurately, and why does it take that long. Then I will showcase a glimpse of the electrical system that has been majorly done, and I will also show you how the circuit breakers will work on this aircraft. In order to make accurate simulation model of an aircraft system, we use the schematic diagrams of that particular system. Now, these diagrams contain all the details regarding the logic behind how an aircraft system behaves. By understanding this logic, you can just simply convert that logic into code and then expect your simulation model to behave exactly like this diagram, which represents the aircraft system. Air Transport Association have standardized all the aircraft systems into various chapters, and that applies for any commercial aircraft. For instance, the fuel system is ATA Chapter 28. So if you want to understand how the fuel system on an Airbus A320 or a Boeing 757 works, you need to find the documentation for ATA 28. So by using these documents, we can understand the underlying logic behind each aircraft system. And if you're a programmer, you can convert that logic into code. In our case, we use C++. We are converting all these logic diagrams into C++ code. So the code is going to represent how the aircraft is exactly designed. And that is why it takes a long time, because it takes a long time to read and understand each of these logic diagrams and then convert them into C++ code. Okay, enough talking about documentations and logic diagrams and codes. Let's get to the fun part, which is flying, and that's what everybody's waiting for. So I'm going to show you the very basic functionality of the electrical system, which is basically I'm going to turn on the batteries. So all these annunciations are behaving as they should. So the electrical system consists of multiple buses and around 500 circuits. Now, when I say 500 circuits, that means all these circuit breakers that you see here are going to be modeled. Yes, that means when you pull a CB, that associated system to that CB is going to get disconnected. So as you can see, I have the external power available. So I'm going to get the external power on. And in 757, there's always a little bit of a delay for the displays to come alive, and those delays have been also simulated, as you can see. So here, as you can see, the left ADI is on, and I'm just going to simply pull that CB. And you'll see very shortly that that display is gonna go off because it's going to lose its power. There you go, it's off. Now when I push the CB back in, the system is getting powered on, but still going to have some sort of a delay because that's the delay, the power on delay of that particular display. So all the CBs have been modeled, and as we are developing other systems, these CBs are going to be used in the other systems. So that's about it for now, and we'll keep you posted about our future development progress.
Thanks, Whan. That was a great explanation. I hope everybody gets an understanding now of the level of detail that we're going into and just the amount of work that's involved. What you're seeing now is the severely abbreviated scope of work, as we call it. The actual scope of work is several pages long, has 14 sections, with many of them having subsections. We're not going to reveal all of that yet. We got some cool stuff in the works, but this gives you a high-level overview of what the system's depth will be. Now, before we move on to our update from our flight dynamics designer, I want to give another quick update. I'm excited that we're partnering with Navigraph. I appreciate that they reached out to us. And really excited because we'll be able to seamlessly integrate all of their data into our EFB and into the flight management system. So I'm very excited to work with them. We'll have more updates on that in the future. Now let's hear from Romain, who's a real-world airline pilot, and will give a quick update on the flight dynamics.
BlueBird Simulation 757 Flight Model Update. Over the last few months, I focused my work on the Pratt & Whitney engines and the Dash 300 variant, as I originally started working on the Dash 200 variant with the Rolls-Royce engines. Refinements on the general lift and drag characteristics of the airframe have been made. The specificities of the Dash 300 were implemented in the simulator. I'm talking about the weight and balance and moments of inertia to account for the longer fuselage of the Dash 300. The aircraft flies very nicely, and I am assisted in the modeling by two rated pilots on the 757, flying both the Rolls-Royce and Pratt & Whitney engines. Their feedback has been key to making a realistic flight model, and it is my objective to make the BlueBird 757 as close to the real 757 as possible within the limitations of the simulator. As for the engines, development of the Pratt & Whitney has progressed nicely, and work is now focusing on fine-tuning the engine's thrust and drag, responsiveness, and fuel flow. Of course, the same work is ongoing for the Rolls-Royce variant. Generally speaking, the flight model is still a work in progress, but I will keep you updated as work is advancing towards the release.
Thanks, Romain, for the update. Romain has spent a lot of time in the last 2 years fine-tuning the flight model, and he's very committed, as he mentioned, to making sure it flies as accurately as possible. We've had so much data that we've collected on this plane in terms of the flight dynamics, handling, and engine data that he's going to put to use to make sure it flies as accurately as possible. All right, now I'm going to show a quick preview of the 767, the VC. This is being developed completely independent of the 757, as I mentioned earlier. There are going to be parts that are shared between the two virtual cockpits. No surprise there because they have a lot of commonality, but there's also a lot of differences. For example, you might see in this picture, if you notice, the control columns between the two are completely different. So those kind of differences we're going to have, of course. We also have a lot of data on the 767 from the pictures that I took, and also we have some 3D scans, some very high detail 3D scans that we got from a source, and we're able to use that to make sure that the cockpit is as accurate as possible. So very excited about this. We're going to show some more previews of the 767, some more in-depth previews, either by the end of this year or early 2025. All right, finally, to end this video, I'll go through some frequently asked questions. First thing we get is Xbox. Yes, it will come to Xbox sometime after the release, but keep in mind, we are going to be running an external application called BBS Nest for some of our code. It's just required. You cannot run an external application on Xbox. It's one of those just limitations. So there are going to be features that may not be included or will be dumbed down for Xbox. That's just the way it is. Our focus here is for the PC. PC comes first, but it will definitely come to Xbox The next question is cargo variant. Yes, there will be a cargo variant. It will be a paid expansion that will include some enhancements, but you do not need to get the paid expansion for those enhancements because we're going to include those for free for the passenger version as well. For this project, we will continuously update it with fixes and enhancements, and it's going to be a free update for existing customers. The next question is flight deck variations, right? So we are going to include with the cargo version the flat panel display system, which is the primary and the navigation display that get updated to LCDs. That also will be included in the passenger version as well when we release the cargo version. What we won't have is the large display system, which is the 3 large displays that some cargo carriers have. We will not include that at this time. We don't have any plans for it. We just don't have enough data, maybe at some point later down in the future. Next question is, will it come out for FS20 or FS 2024? This will be for FS 2020. We will, of course, update the features to be compatible with FS 2024, and that will be a free update for existing users. We will not charge existing users for FS 2024. All right, so guys, that's all just the main frequently asked questions. I really appreciate all of the support that I've gotten from the community, and we also listen to the criticism, and I do my best to respond to as many comments as possible. But again, I appreciate all the support. I hope this video gives you a much bigger insight of where we're taking this project, and we're going to try to have an update video every 1 or 2 months now. So I'll see you guys next time. Again, thank you so much. And we're super excited to get this 757 to you guys at some point. It's going to be a fantastic project. We're putting so much time into this. It'll be worth the wait, I promise. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.